What's good, YouTube? Welcome back. Today it is the LazyDaze channel and we're back at it again with some more history reaction for you guys today, and we got some more epic history TV content for you, and we're on the Napoleonic Wars series once again, and we got Napoleon defeats Russia, Friedland 1807. I really enjoyed last episode. The sort of blitzkrieg he done into Russia, the fact that his main forces got confused about taking out the rear forces of the Prussian army, and then the advanced forces was due to come round and flank them, but they actually ended up facing the main force of the Prussian army and ended up defeating them, was insane. Insane. Imagine having that victory to yourself as well. You were outnumbered 2-1. You held your ground. You defeated and you won that battle for your
just
commander.
The fact of going in there with you and your men thinking, well, this is going to go one way, so we've got to go the only way. And he's been able to push it through. He's made it through. And then, the assault of Napoleon and running through all of Germany and that, and he's just making his way through, cleaning up. Everyone's surrendering.
It's insane.
He's pushing them out.
It's just
the speed of his armies.
Yeah, the speed of his army is insane.
You ain't got to mess about with it.
No. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens against the Russian armies in this episode.
Yeah, definitely.
You are as well. If you're enjoying our content, then please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. A link will be in the description box down below for Epic History TV's content. But we're just going to jump straight into this one.
Let's do this.
One week before Christmas 1806, French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte arrived in the Polish city of Warsaw, then part of Prussia. A year had passed since his great victory over the Austrians and Russians at Austerlitz, and 2 months since he'd hammered the Prussians at Jena. But Russia still had powerful forces in the field, the most important of which was the Russian First Army, commanded by General Bennigsen. Napoleon would not be master of Europe until it was defeated, and Russia and Prussia forced to make peace.
Okay.
But that winter, Napoleon's first attempt to trap Bennigsen near Pultusk got bogged down in thick Polish mud. The Russians withdrew to Białystok. The French army, half-starved and frozen, was ordered into winter quarters.
Oh shit.
While in Warsaw, Napoleon began a famous affair with a young Polish noblewoman, Marie Walewska. In the late 18th century, the once mighty Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth had been swallowed up by its neighbours, Russia, Austria and Prussia, in a series of annexations known as partitions. Until in 1795, a third and final partition wiped Poland off the map. Now, Polish patriots looked to Napoleon as their saviour, praying that his victories against their occupiers would lead to the rebirth of a Polish state.
I've no idea.
Marie Walewska became Napoleon's mistress
I knew that it got wiped off the map in World War II. I didn't realise it got wiped off the map in this. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously, obviously Germany took over half. Germany and Russia invaded Poland, and then for a long period of time it wasn't really Poland wasn't a country. I knew that because obviously it was part of Germany and a part of Russia, but I didn't realise in 1795 that happened, and then it got its name again later. I didn't know that at all.
Against their occupiers,
of course,
would lead
Napoleon,
to the rebirth
wanted
of a
a bit of
Polish state. Marie Walewska
Even
became
back in the
Napoleon's
day,
mistress
they
in
couldn't
order to
resist it,
further
could they?
this cause. Ordinary French soldiers, however, had little love for Poland. It was impoverished, freezing, and they missed home. Desertion rates soared. There were even 100 cases of suicide. Marshal Ney commanding 6th Corps, sent patrols towards Heilsberg, looking for better quarters. What they found were Russian and Prussian soldiers on the move. They'd stumbled into a surprise winter attack by Bennigsen. Napoleon quickly laid a trap for the Russian army, ordering Ney and Bernadotte to retreat and lure Bennigsen west, while he led the rest of the army north to fall on his flank and rear.
Nice, smart tactics.
But the Russians captured a French courier carrying the Emperor's orders to Marshal Bernadotte. Bennigsen, now warned of the trap, ordered a retreat, fighting a series of rearguard skirmishes against the pursuing French. But he refused to give up the city of Königsberg without a fight.
Okay, so what happens here?
And turned to give battle at Eylau.
What a massacre. Massacre? Massacre. What a massacre, and without any result. Marshal Ney on the Battle of... I'm not even going to attempt that last word.
The Battle of Eylau, fought over 2 days, was one of the most brutal of the Napoleonic Wars. Fought in freezing conditions, with neither side backing down. Marshal Augereau's 7th Corps, advancing into the face of a snowstorm, lost its way and was cut to pieces by Russian cannon fire. 5 French Eagles were lost. Napoleon's army was only saved by a devastating massed cavalry charge by 10,000 horsemen, led by the fearless Marshal Murat, and remembered as one of the great cavalry charges in history. At Eylau, for the first time as emperor, Napoleon failed to win a clear victory on the battlefield. He and the Russians covered up the true scale of their losses, but both sides are estimated to have lost a third of their armies in the carnage. After the horrors of Eylau, both armies sought time to rest and recover. Meanwhile, the newly formed French 10th Corps under Marshal Lefebvre besieged Danzig, held by 13,000 Prussians under General Kalkreuth. The city came under heavy French bombardment and infantry assault. After 8 weeks, with no prospect of reinforcement, the Prussian garrison surrendered on the 27th of May. Napoleon's northern sea flank was now secure against any possible Russian landing. The French Emperor now commanded an army 190,000 strong, against just 115,000 Russian and Prussian troops. But it was Bennigsen who moved first, launching a surprise attack against Ney's 6th Corps on the 5th of June. Ney conducted a brilliant fighting withdrawal and escaped. Bennigsen, having lost the element of surprise, and with Napoleon advancing, retreated once more. 4 days later at Heilsberg, the French lost 10,000 men in a botched assault against Russian defences.
Insane.
But the Russians continued their retreat the next day. Napoleon thought Bennigsen would head north to Königsberg, but instead he retreated northeast, keeping to the east bank of the Aller River. So when Napoleon's army marched north, it was Marshal Lannes' Reserve Corps on his right flank that next encountered the Russian army, near the small town of Friedland.
Shit, that's not a big army, like, it's only a few men. Ride your horse into the ground if you have to, but tell the Emperor we're fighting the entire Russian army. Marshal Lannes to his aide de camp. The entire Russian army and you're a small corps.
In the late afternoon of the 13th of June, Russian cavalry scouts informed General Bennigsen that they'd found a single French corps at Friedland. Bennigsen decided he had time to cross the Eylau River and smash this isolated corps before the rest of the French army could arrive to save it.
Does he do it?
He ordered his army to begin crossing the river.
Sorry.
Marshal Lannes, commanding 16,000 men and facing 46,000 Russians, sent an urgent message to Napoleon that he was under attack from the main Russian army. Then he fought a skillful delaying action, hiding the weakness of his force behind a large screen of skirmishers, while gradually yielding ground to the enemy.
Okay.
Lannes was still holding off the Russians as darkness fell.
Yeah.
That night, Russian engineers built 3 pontoon bridges at Friedland to speed the movement of troops over the river. But Bennigsen was taking a huge risk. If this turned into a major battle, his army would have to fight with its back to the river, and the steep banks of the Mill Stream dividing its left wing from its right.
Get some reinforcements, I think, from Napoleon.
Bennigsen had also badly underestimated the speed at which Napoleon's Grande Armée would react. The first French reinforcements arrived that night.
Oh, that's not...
The Emperor himself wasn't far behind.
So quick. And the generals are good as well. We won't catch the enemy making a mistake like this twice. Napoleon on arrival at Friedland.
I guess he knew exactly what he'd done.
Yeah. Okay.
By dawn on the 14th of June, about 40,000 Russians had crossed to the west bank of the Eylau River.
On the other side of the river now as
Bennigsen
well.
ordered an attack on the village of
Heinrichsdorf
to turn the French left flank.
That's why he's done the 3
But French cavalry reinforcements, led by General Grouchy, intercepted the Russians. In more than an hour of charge and countercharge, the French horsemen finally drove the Russians back.
How many horses do we have back then?
Marshal Mortier's 8th Corps now arrived to reinforce the French centre.
That's a strong line by Napoleon.
In Sortlac Wood, General Oudinot's elite Grenadier Division fought stubbornly against Prince Bagration's left wing, but was outnumbered by the Russians and gradually pushed back. Around noon on a sweltering day, Napoleon himself arrived. He was soon followed by 1st Corps, commanded by General Victor, standing in for the wounded Marshal Bernadotte, as well as Ney's 6th Corps and the Imperial Guard under Marshal Bessières. The date, the 14th of June, held special...
This game's really making me want to play Total War. I don't know, this game, this video is making me want to play the game Total War so much.
significance for Napoleon. It was the 7th anniversary of his great victory over the Austrians at Marengo. A good omen, he declared. The battle then entered a lull, as Napoleon assessed the situation, saw Bennigsen's dangerous position, and issued orders for an attack to take advantage of it. Bennigsen, meanwhile, who was tormented by ill health throughout the day, saw that he now faced the full might of Napoleon's army, and issued orders for a retreat.
It's going to be too slow. This is the objective advance, looking neither right nor left, bore into this thick mass, cost what it may.
But before Bennigsen's retreat could get underway, at 5:30 p.m, 3 salvos from the French guns signalled the start of Napoleon's attack.
Did he start targeting those?
It was led by Ney's
don't know they're there, I
6th
don't
Corps
think.
on the right wing, who first cleared Bagration's infantry from Sortlack Wood.
Oh no.
But as Ney's troops left the cover of the trees, they came under heavy fire from Russian cannon across the river.
Okay.
As the French attack faltered, Prince Bagration rallied his men and launched a cavalry counterattack. Ney's corps retreated. But now General Victor's 1st Corps came up on his left. Its artillery commander, General Senarmont, advanced with 30 guns and blasted the Russians at point-blank range with case shot. Hundreds of Russians were mown down within minutes. Under this onslaught, Bagration's men began to waver and then retreat. Around 7 p.m, the Russian Imperial Guard launched a desperate counterattack to try to halt the French advance on Friedland. But they were outnumbered and outgunned. As exploding shells began to start fires in Friedland, the French centre and left wing joined the attack. With its only escape route under threat, the entire Russian army began a panicked retreat towards the river. But Friedland's houses and bridges were now ablaze. The town became a deadly trap for the Russians. Many were drowned trying to cross the river. Others killed or captured. North of Friedland, some units were able to escape across a ford or along the river bank. But there was no disguising the Russians' terrible defeat. The Battle of Friedland was one of the most decisive victories of Napoleon's career.
He's had some decisive
At the cost of 10,000 casualties, he had inflicted twice as many losses on the Russians.
Just having these accomplishments underneath you at his age? Like, how insane is it just to have all these accomplishments?
He's like mid-20s, and he's just commanding these men to do this skillful counterattacks and
just warfare.
Dividing all of this, dividing these men up into separate, smaller armies.
It really does like make you want to sort of like, it makes you wonder how good you would be in that type of scenario, like a VR game where you would like slowly go into it and you just work your way up.
Go as commanders.
I just don't know, like be commanders and you're in the battle and so on and so forth. You might have to work your way up from like a squadron commander and so on and so forth and stuff like that. But I think it'd be quite cool like to see how far you could get and like just in general.
Okay. I reckon, yeah.
On the Russians, about 20,000 men killed, wounded or taken prisoner, 40% of Bennigsen's army.
Oh dear.
Yeah, oh dear.
The Prussians abandoned Königsberg the next day, which was occupied by Soult's 4th Corps, while Bennigsen's shattered army retreated across the river Niemen into Russia. Tsar Alexander's advisors implored him to make peace with Napoleon. He accepted their advice, and a ceasefire was agreed.
Perhaps I was happiest at this. I can't say French words. I found myself victorious, dictating laws, having emperors and kings pay me at court. Napoleon in exile on St. Helena.
Alexander and Napoleon met for the first time aboard a raft in the middle of the river Niemen, near Tilsit, and developed an immediate rapport.
Tilsit.
Yeah.
Tilsit proved to be one of history's great diplomatic summits, as the two emperors feted each other for days, with banquets, parades and concerts, then discussed affairs late into the night. A friendship of sorts developed.
Might even have had affair.
While Russia's former ally, King Frederick William of Prussia, was left out in the cold. And it was Prussia who would lose most in the Treaties of Tilsit, signed 2 weeks later. 1/3 of Prussian territory was taken away to create the new Kingdom of Westphalia, to be ruled by Napoleon's 22-year-old brother Jerome, and the Duchy of Warsaw, to be ruled by the King of Saxony, which Polish patriots hoped would prove a stepping stone on the road to their own state. Polish troops were recruited into the Grande Armée, with Polish lancers even forming part of Napoleon's elite Imperial Guard. Russia only had to give up the Ionian Islands, as Alexander accepted an alliance with Napoleon that left the French Emperor master of Europe. Alexander even agreed to join the Continental System, Napoleon's economic blockade of Great Britain, which banned British ships and goods from all French-controlled ports. The system had been established the previous winter by Napoleon's Berlin Decree. Napoleon hoped that by cutting off British trade with Europe, he'd cause financial chaos and political upheaval in Britain, allowing him to make a favourable peace. There was just one problem.
It's gone through in history that a lot of people have tried to cut us off from our suppliers, and it's just not worked. It just doesn't work. No. There's no point in trying to cut us off. We'll find ways.
Yeah, we'll always find ways.
The Continental System didn't work. Not only was it impossible to enforce and undermined by widespread smuggling, the system damaged French trade just as much as British trade. The decisive weapon in this economic war would prove to be the British Royal Navy, which that summer ensured its continued naval dominance by launching a preemptive strike against the neutral Danish fleet at Copenhagen, capturing their warships before they could fall into Napoleon's hands.
Smart.
Royal Navy squadrons blockaded all major French ports, seizing any ships trading with France, while ensuring British merchants could continue to trade overseas in relative safety. The Navy even seized the tiny Danish island of Heligoland as a base for smuggling British goods into Europe. But most disastrously for Napoleon, the Continental System would draw him into two conflicts that proved ruinous for his empire. The first would be fought in the Iberian Peninsula, where Napoleon decided to force Britain's ally, Portugal, to join the Continental System. In November 1807, French troops, supported by their Spanish ally, invaded the country. The Portuguese royal family fled to their colony of Brazil, as the French occupied Lisbon without a fight. It looked as though Napoleon had won yet another easy victory. But the Peninsular War was just beginning.
Well, I'm definitely interested to find out what happens in that next episode. I enjoyed this one. What about yourself, Jack, after your drink?
Absolutely loved it.
He did indeed. If you enjoyed our content, then please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. A link will be in the description down below for Epic History TV's content. Other than that, we're going to catch you in the next one.
See you in a bit.